Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Thursday, October 9th, 2025, and I'd like to make a second report for today. This one will be regarding President Trump's push to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. I think all of us by now have decided one way or the other whether President Trump really deserves that Peace Prize or not, and I'm sure that there is a lot of diplomatic effort being made between the United States and the awarding country, at least where the Nobel Peace Prize is determined. So I'm sure that a lot of pressure is going on to try to name President Trump as the recipient of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. So anyway, I think this whole conversation is a bit ridiculous. And if you had to choose of a winner between three different individuals, you could take Biff from Back to the Future, who was a prosperous individual who used thug-like tactics against anyone who stood in his way. That was, of course, after he had um, gotten power in one of the possible future scenarios of Back to the Future. We also have either Don Vito Corleone or Michael Corleone from The Godfather, other individuals who seem to be very principled and religious, but at the same time used, of course, they were the mafia. They used mafia-style tactics. President Trump has been acting in a very similar way, even threatening countries with annihilation and destruction, bombing Iran, really for no other reason because um, he justified himself to others over um, the creation of a nuclear bomb, which Iran was not working on. Um, and you can think about his lack of action in Gaza to stop the killing of the Palestinians, and also similar situation is going on in the West Bank. So we have many situations throughout the world. We have President Trump bombing, I believe, Somalia. I don't know how many bombings they have done, but it has to be over 2 dozen. So anyway, the U.S. has bombed several countries, threatened annihilation to other countries. President Trump has allowed the extrajudicial killing of people driving fast boats in the Caribbean and then coming out with fantastic claims that they were carrying drugs. Well, if you look down on the boat, you see people, you see backpacks, or you see bags. What are in the bags? Hard to say, but after they're dead and it's blowing up and there's nothing left, many people have just come to the conclusion that President Trump was right. But extrajudicial killing of individuals in open international waters certainly is a crime. So I'm not too sure exactly in whose mind fashioned this whole idea of President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, but I don't think he is a worthy recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. It's actually hard to think of anyone this last year who could be a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. There's been so much war and destruction, and many countries have been pushing for more war. We have talk in Europe about rearming and about trying to attack Russia by 2029. So this isn't good. And we could possibly have Xi Jinping as the recipient because of the Belt and Road Initiative to bring development and investment into poor countries that otherwise would have to trade off their natural resources to get that from either France, UK, or the United States. But with China, they do all that free of charge. So China is bringing development to all of these countries, and of course, after these countries develop and will have growing economies. They will turn to China for, for imports, exports. So this has been a win-win for China, not so much for Trump. And so I think the whole idea of President Trump receiving this award is ridiculous. But at the same time, this is kind of, more like a favoritism competition rather than a recognition of achievement. So President Trump has been very popular and remains very popular. His base, the mega base, stays very committed to him, and he has many people who will continue to support anything he says, no matter how ridiculous. Um, Certainly, the promises he made during this campaign were believable and achievable, but he has gone down a different path, and unfortunately, I don't think the path that he is on now is meritorious of any peace award like the Nobel Peace Prize. So, anyway, that is my quick report today on Trump's search for the Nobel Peace Prize. And as I say, there could be a lot of communication with the country that assigns or awards the Nobel Peace Prize. And so there could be a lot of behind the scenes pressure on that country to award President Trump. So certainly he could possibly receive it. And again, this is just a kind of a popularity contest. There's nothing to do with an actual achievements. So anyway, this could certainly be possible, and I wouldn't doubt that President Trump could receive that award. So on the one hand, he's certainly not deserving of the award. On the other hand, the way that it is awarded and the people who are involved in awarding it could certainly see the light that President Trump is worthy of that. So we will see what happens with the Nobel Peace Prize, but President Trump has been speaking about it more and more and more. So anyway, it's starting to get a little tiring. And until he actually resolves a real situation on the a real conflict on the planet, he shouldn't be looking for that. And if we think about the India-Pakistan conflict, I doubt he had anything to do with that. The Armenia-Azerbaijan, same thing. He wanted to bring peace to the Middle East. Well, you don't bring peace to the Middle East by bombing innocent civilians. So I can't see him getting the Nobel Peace Prize by, massacring Palestinians in Gaza. And the Ukraine-Russia conflict, well, this is a whole creation of the Western nations trying to introduce NATO into Ukraine and pushing for a ultra-nationalist, in part Nazi government in Kiev. So anyway, I don't see how President Trump could actually deserve this award, but on the other hand, I think he possibly could, because all these international institutions that in the Western countries are now basically under the control of the Western narratives and Western goals, like the ICC, the International Criminal Court. It is now so devalued; it has no worth, and they need to start from scratch and come up with another organization, because it has no value. It just completely loses track of what it's trying to do and what it's trying to achieve, and just works on political goals. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that whole Nobel Peace Prize. And I don't know who would be a worthy recipient. I think maybe Xi Jinping would probably be the best of all. Maybe somebody who has created something that actually benefits the planet, and not someone who's bombing innocent people and carrying out mafia-style tactics. But anyway, that's just my own personal opinion, so you're welcome to leave a comment below if you agree, disagree. I'd like to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you back for more videos. So have a good evening. Bye-bye.